We're going to go back in time to arguably one of the best running backs we've had on the Packers, at least for a short stint of time. Back in those good old days of, 2014, I think it was, and 13, and some of 15 as well. So we are going to continue the show with our next segment of counting down the top 5 career games all time of certain players. We did put out a question, and then we narrowed it down with a poll. You guys voted, I think it was 45% for Eddie Lacy. So we are going to do Eddie Lacy and Napo. Give me your number 5, and then I will do 5, 4, and 4.
So my number 5 game comes from Eddie Lacy's rookie season, October 13th, 2013, at the Baltimore Ravens. Thankfully, it was a win. So this was his big breakout game in his rookie year. This was like when we started saying, okay, maybe this is the guy. He wasn't really too good week 1. He got injured week 2, so he missed week 3. He had a good game in week 4. Yeah, he rushed for 99 yards, and then just absolutely just came out of nowhere and popped off against a top 10 run defense against the Ravens in Baltimore, I may add. 120 rushing yards and on 23 attempts. Like, that's a really good game. He didn't score, unfortunately. He doesn't really have those games that pop out to you as phenomenal games like Aaron Jones does. Like, Aaron Jones has multiple 4-touchdown games, which is just ridiculous to say. Like, some guys don't even get one, and he's got multiple. But I think this is definitely the game that I would go with for number 5, just because, it started him off on his journey to becoming Rookie of the Year.
Sure did.
And then he had another great year his next season. And then, we all know what happened after that. But I think this is definitely a really good opening game to start his top 5 with.
Yeah, that might just be on my list as well. We'll see. My number 5 game is October 2nd, 2014, Packers against the Vikings. I could have put this later down the list, but, it didn't exactly have eye-popping numbers, but it was against Minnesota, division rival. And we did destroy Minnesota in this game, so we beat them 42-10 this game. Eddie Lacy was just an absolute power horse in this game. 13 rushes for 105 yards. One of the rare times he had multiple touchdowns in a game, which, like, we talked about it off air. Like, I was surprised at how little amount of games he had multiple touchdowns in. Like, because I just remember him being, like, dominant. So, like, I don't know. I guess Packer fans maybe we kind of overestimate how great he was. But here nor there, he had 3 catches for 27 yards as well, which is one of his better catching performances of his career, actually. Vikings defense was no scrub that year. They were, 11th in the NFL. Their front 7 back then was, like, seriously so good. Like, you'll remember some of these names: Brian Robinson, Linval Joseph, Sharif Floyd, Everson Griffin, the All-Pro or former All-Pro, Anthony Barr, the most hated man in Green Bay, one of them at least, and Chad Greenway were the linebackers. I mean, like, those are Chad Greenway, yes. Wow. Like, that's a good front 7. Like, I just named 6 of the 7 guys that were all, former Pro Bowlers, I believe. So a really good front 7 that he did that on, and Harrison Smith and Open Roads were on that team as well. So it comes full circle, and that's number 5. That's I think a good opening game for him. He had a really solid game. Like, the yards don't jump out at you, only 105, only 13 rushes, but off the top of my head, that's like, I think 6 and something, 6 and some change yards per carry, something around there. So that's not bad.
Per carry, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not bad. But let's go to your number 4.
Yeah, my number 4 is also from the 2014 season. A little bit later in the season, October 24th against New Orleans. They were on the road. Unfortunately, it was a loss. It really wasn't too close. I think the Packers lost by double digits. And his rushing attempts weren't really eye-popping, like his rushing stats. He had 13 attempts for 59 yards. Now, that's not really gonna jump off the page. I mean, it's pretty solid on a yards per attempt basis at 4.5. But then you look at his receiving stats, and holy moly, 123 receiving yards on 8 catches with a long of 67 yards. I think if this is the play that I'm remembering, his offensive linemen were running ahead of him. That's how slow that he was moving.
Oh. Was it a screen play? Probably a screen, I'm guessing.
I don't remember. Maybe it could have been just like a short check down that he took 67 yards. Yeah. I think this is a great nickname for Eddie Lacy. My friend Shane gave him this nickname just because, Lacy's a tank, but he was never really fast. Like, he had an okay 40 time, but I feel like his game speed was not that much. Like, if you have your offensive lineman running as fast, if not faster than you, and setting up blocks downfield, this is your name, Cheesequake. That is a great name for anyone to see. That is a great name.
Yep.
So I'm gonna head back a little bit to his receiving yards. 123, 8 catches with that long of 67. But then he also had 3 other catches that were 10 plus yards. So it's not like he gained all of his yards off of that one big play. He had 3 other plays that were 10 plus yards. I think they were all between 10 and 15. So that's still a pretty good game. And I was really surprised when I looked up that he wasn't really used in the receiving game. Like, he had some massive receiving plays, but they didn't really use him too often in the game. And then I did some more digging, and his receiving stats aren't too different from Aaron Jones's. Like, Lacy had 101 receiving yards, 101 receptions, 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had 131 receptions for 1,057 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, those are... I feel like the Packers have, really good receiving backs that we as fans can see that, hey, this guy is taking off on these receiving plays, and he's gaining really good yards. Use him in the receiving game. And then, in 4 seasons, 101 receptions for a man that can pop off a 67-yard run running 2 miles an hour? Come on. I mean, maybe that was the reason why they didn't throw the ball to him more, because he's not the fastest guy, but it didn't matter. He'll still run you over anyway. He carried 5 guys, I think, on this play, 5 guys for an extra 10 yards. It's I think this is going to be my future comparison. I think A.J. Dillon is Eddie Lacy, but with speed and gigantic quads.
And better work ethic, yeah.
So far,
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah.
But that's my number 4 game. It was his best receiving performance of his entire career, and I wish we had seen him do a little bit or get more opportunities as a receiving back, because I feel like having a receiving back really helps the team. It takes a little bit of pressure. It takes pressure off of the receivers and the quarterback. If you have that guy you can check it down to, who's gonna maybe not 67 yards every time, but a solid 8 yards per carry or 8 yards per catch, that's the kind of guy you want. And we never used it. It never seemed like a strength, but when you look at the stats, he had pretty similar receiving stats to a guy who we view as a top 5 receiving back. So hashtag Eddie Lacy is a receiving back. On to you, Ochs.
Oh, hashtag Tom Brady is a running quarterback. Look, my number 4 is October 13th, 2013, Packers-Ravens as well. We won 1917. I mean, not much I can say that you didn't already say about the game, but 23 rushes, 120 yards. The Ravens were just a year removed from the Super Bowl win that they had against the 49ers. So, like, their defense, even though they lost Ray Lewis, was still really solid. I mean, you know, again, another team with talent and a good front seven with, you know, T. Sizzle, Madizzle, Terrell Suggs, you know, Haloti Ngata, Elvis Dumerville were all on that team. The game, the victory got us above 500, actually, after that. We were 3-2 after that game. We had handed the Ravens their first home loss of the season at that point. And this was a game where Rodgers kind of needed that rushing performance. Like, he wasn't very, you know, terrific in that game. 17 of 32, 315, had a touchdown, had an interception. Have you ever noticed that, like, Rodgers throws the most interceptions against AFC teams? Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I can just go back to, like, the games that he's played against Buffalo, and there was a year that we played Denver and Cincinnati. Like, the games that he plays against AFC teams, it's like he never throws picks, and then he'll play an AFC team, and boom, interception.
Like, he just doubles the total in one game.
What was that?
He just doubles his total of interceptions on the season in like one game.
In one game, like, just something random side note that I always just find interesting. And
well, it's also he doesn't play AFC teams as much, so he's not used to them.
Right.
That could be the reason.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is I think it's probably because, you know, he doesn't play him as much. But that's my number 4. It's Eddie Lacy's a little tough, you know, like, he doesn't.
I thought there would be more like games that stood out.
Nah,
like he had a bunch of really good games, but like I wouldn't call any of them like
special.
Great. Yeah. Like he was a very consistent running back for his first 2 seasons. You knew what you were gonna get, but he never had like that wow factor. Like, yeah, he broke off like a bunch of awesome runs that are so cool to watch on a highlight reel. But like, then you compare that to like Aaron Jones, and Aaron Jones does that like every other game.
That's what he does. Yeah, that's # Aaron Jones is the top 5 RB in the league.